Before we even talk about the football, something happened in the Real Madrid vs Benfica first leg that should worry every single fan of the game. The unfortunate reality is that what happened to Vinicius Junior wasn't even the first time, and that's the problem. There have been repeated attacks after repeated attacks on black players. Vinicius Junior has been the chief target. It's one thing to receive a racist slur from a fan. It's another thing to receive a racist slur from a fellow professional. This isn't just about Real Madrid. It's not just about Benfica. It's about something football keeps refusing to fix. So what really happened then? Real Madrid travelled to the Estadio da Luz to take on Benfica in the Champions League knockout playoff first leg. The two teams had met just weeks earlier in the final round of the group phase. That one delivered goals. This was a much tighter affair. As the game went on, it became clear that only a special moment of quality would be the difference between both teams. And just 5 minutes into the second half, that's exactly what Vinicius Junior provided. He sent an insane curler top bins, gave Real Madrid the lead, but this was where the real drama started. At first, he was booked for what referee Francois Lettier deemed an excessive celebration. Vini danced around the corner flag after his goal. To him, he was celebrating his goal in a tough match, just like Brazilians before him had done, the likes of Ronaldinho and Marta. It shouldn't have been a problem, but once Vini got into the position for kickoff, something shocking happened. Benfica's winger Gianluca Prestiani was close to Vinicius. He's Argentine. The rivalry between both countries in this game cuts deep. Prestiani was seen briefly exchanging words with Vini until Prestiani decided to cover his mouth. And that right there was the moment that sparked everything. The way Vini ran to the ref, it was clear that it was more than just verbal words they traded. Even judging from Prestiani's reaction, you could almost tell he looked guilty. Vinicius Junior immediately reported to the referee that Prestiani had racially abused him. The referee in turn immediately signaled the X sign to halt the game and begin the racist procedure for matches according to UEFA. The game was temporarily stopped until it resumed almost 10 minutes later. By full time, a lot more had happened. Jose Mourinho had been sent off for a separate incident involving the referee. Vini Jr. at this point had turned into a target for the Benfica fans. They hurled items at him and his teammates, from bottles to even a lighter. Real Madrid managed to win 1-0, but the truth, football had lost on the night, especially after watching the replays to see what had happened. If there's one man that almost disappointed the football community with his actions, it wasn't surprisingly Gianluca Prestiani himself. It was Jose Mourinho. But just before we get into what Mourinho did, see that subscribe button to the Football Armageddon down below. Click it to get more videos like this. Mourinho could be seen speaking to Vini after the game. To many, he was trying to calm him down. In fact, it happened during the incident. But in the press conference after the match, Mourinho shot himself in the foot.
L'unica cosa che digo io è che passa en tantos estadios, sempre con lo mismo, hay qualcosa que no, hay alguna cosa que no va. Yo a Vinicius en el campo yo le he dicho, tú marcas un gol de otro mundo. ¿Por qué celebras así? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué no celebras como celebraba Di Stefano, Pelé, Eusebio? ¿Por qué no celebras?
He openly downplayed the entire thing. He told Vini how he should simply score goals and celebrate. Then he went ahead to say the biggest player in Benfica's history is Eusebio, a black man. And because Eusebio is black, then Benfica can't be racist. That's about the dumbest analogy ever heard in trying to settle a racist situation. It should have been anyone else but Jose. What's even more annoying is how multiple parties came out to confirm the situation.
Vini ha provocado en su carrera, posible. Vini ha hecho malas cosas en su carrera, posible. Pero nunca va a merecer este tipo de cosas. Yo no puedo entender que hay gente que me dice que merece este tipo de cosas. Yo pienso que son gente que nunca va a vivir eso o nunca ha vivido eso. Por eso que hablan así, pero nunca puedo pensar que hay un humano que merece este tipo de tratamiento.
Kylian Mbappe, Vini's teammate, confirmed that Prestiani had indeed racially abused Vini. It was disgusting to watch. Trent Alexander-Arnold, another one of Vini's teammates, called the incident a disgrace to football.
I think Vini's, he's had incidents like this before. He's been subjected to this numerous times throughout his career. So, not that he's used to it, but he's experienced this before. I think it's an emotional game. He's gone through something very disappointing tonight, disgraceful. to the sport, but he's handled it right.
In the media, the tensions were building.
Today is a new day in football, but with the same old racist problems. And whilst we do want to focus on the games ahead today, because the game is what we love, yesterday does still linger. And whether or not you like Vinny Junior, that shouldn't shape your opinion on this incident. And which team you support, it shouldn't affect which side of the story that you fall on. This isn't Real Madrid versus Benfica. It is right versus wrong. Vinny Junior and Kylian Mbappe said that there was repeated racial abuse.
Kate Scott put out a touching statement on the incident. It was growing. The reactions continued pouring out. There is no room for racism in football. And yet the painful part is that even till now, even in big 2026, this feels like just a mere statement and nothing more. Because it makes no sense. How is this still happening in football? And UEFA's response is a signal procedure that still allows the game and the perpetrator to continue. How is someone like Jose Mourinho, a man once described as a hero to African footballers and footballers of black heritage, because of the number of black players he's managed, coming out to make such a statement? There were a lot of responses to Jose's comments, but the best one by far belongs to Bayern Munich head coach Vincent Kompany.
He mentions the name of Eusebio. To say that Benfica cannot be racist because the best player in the history of Benfica is Eusebio. You know what black players had to go through in the 1960s? Was he there to travel with Eusebio every away game? When he went to every place in Europe? Probably at the time, because my dad is a black person from the 1960s also who made his way. Probably at the time, the only option they had is to be quiet and to say nothing and to be above it and to be 10 times better, to get a little bit of credit and people say, actually, he's good. That's Eusebio's life, probably. And today to use his name to make a point about Vinny Junior, who's actually finally in a situation where he can say something about it. There's a lot of players who play in different leagues still in Europe who don't have a voice. There's players today in Hungary, in Bulgaria, in Serbia. If something happens to them and they are black players, they have zero chance to have any kind of support.
He wasted no time in shutting down Mourinho's words. Vinny's dance does not in any way, shape or form warrant any sort of racial abuse. End. Particularly on the man in question, the incident must be tiring. It's disgusting to realize that it's very easy to lose count of how many times Vinny Junior has been racially abused. What a damning headline. 8 years at Real Madrid, 20 cases of alleged racist abuse. There's no denying that he's a target now. Was it in 2024 in the Madrid derby when Atleti fans hung an effigy of him? Or was it in March of the same year when Vinny finally decided to confront the fans who had been taunting him with racist chants almost the entire game? To those thinking it only happens in small games, it reportedly happened in 2021 in El Clasico against Barca. In fact, the only reason that case didn't later become widespread was that Spanish football authorities were unable to identify the man who had abused him. Now the Benfica incident, and so the most logical question is to ask why. Why do these people continue to insult black players and almost all the time nothing happens? See, the unfortunate reality is that people like this will always be amongst us in society. But that doesn't mean the issue can't be tackled if authorities really want to take a proper fix. For context, here's a look at what UEFA's official procedure is for racist incidents. According to the rules, if a player reports alleged racism, a referee cannot act if they have not heard what was said. If the referee can indeed confirm what has been said, then he can send off the player who made the remark. Also, according to UEFA, the affected player can continue but can also be substituted if he wants to. You don't need to be a genius to read between the lines to understand that UEFA's priority here is to keep the game continuing no matter what, even if it means the player is abused due to the color of his skin. According to the authorities, as long as the game can continue, there's no problem. That's just a big load of bull. The other big question has to come down to the players who are affected. What do they do? Using Vinny as an example, we've seen him try multiple approaches. He's been racially abused before and tried to continue with the game, but it was clear that the abuse had affected him. He's tried to speak out about the incident, the one where he teared up after showing the world that even with all the money and the fame, some negatives are simply bigger than football.
Eu só queria jogar futebol, só quero jogar,
It still didn't work. He's tried to confront those horrible people as he did against Valencia. What happened at the time was the referee sending him off and La Liga president Javier Tebas acknowledging that La Liga and Spanish football almost belongs to racists. So what do these players do? Do they keep allowing these incidents happen and just sit back in silence? They are not allowed to speak back, to fight back. Why? Because they get paid. In the broader context, the issues continue to happen in football now. Over the last weekend in the Premier League, Wolverhampton Wanderers forward Tolu Akodare was racially abused after missing a penalty for Wolves in the league. In the Premier League match between Chelsea and Burnley last weekend as well, players from both teams were racially abused. Wesley Fofana of Chelsea and Hannibal Mejbri of Burnley. Racism is sadly on the rise in football again, and so now the big question is this. At what point does football decide that character is as important as talent? When do we decide that enough is enough? Until it gets worse? Or until the player does the unthinkable after getting abused by the very fans he's playing for? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to check out the previous video on why Thomas Frank failed at Tottenham.